This is Carrigan Company. Are you looking for the perfect holiday gift for the Boston lover on your list? My friends at College Hype can help. My City Gear, powered by College Hype, has a wide array of custom apparel for your favorite townie. Shop for short and long sleeve t-shirts, hoodies, and much more, all in a wide variety of designs. Plus, they have apparel that's specific to Boston, Charlestown, Dorchester, and Southie. Enter code KIM20 at mycitygear.com to get 20% off your entire order. That's promo code KIM20 for 20% off at mycitygear.com. Welcome, everybody, to this very special edition of Carrigan Company. I'm so glad that you could be with me. If you can believe it, the year is winding down, and my executive producer, Dave Thompson, and I started talking about what we could do to make this a very special end-of-the-year podcast. We have now done 48 podcasts, and I have had 48 co-hosts since the show began January 23rd of 2024. So we thought, what better than to look back at some of the special moments? And there have certainly been so many during the course of the year, but I thought I would just choose a few. So where I want to start is with my very first co-host, who was here on the 23rd of January, 2024. Lenny Clark, the comedian, joined me, and like always, Lenny was on fire. This week, I could not be more thrilled. On my very first episode, to have an old friend, somebody who makes me laugh very hard and has for years and probably does the same for you, Lenny Clark is with me. You are a saint.
I love you. Are you kidding me? When I was starting out in comedy, you were always so kind to me and so encouraging and so great. And now look at us, right?
I know.
I'm in the company, the Carrigan Company.
You are the company today, my friend. You know, when I called you to see if you would do this, first words out of your mouth were, yes, if I'm in town, I absolutely will do it. I do have to go to Aruba with my sister. You did. You told me that right off the bat. But you also, I mentioned, gosh, we're going to be able to talk about your new network TV show, which we're going to do, of course. Yeah. And you said to me, Kim, I got a new show, and I'm the oldest guy on TV, except for Tom Selleck. And I said, that cannot be right. So I did a little research about that. Tom Selleck is 78.
Oh,
and you're 70.
70. Can you put 70? I beat the under.
Yeah, he's an old guy. But guess what? There's one older than he is.
Who?
Sam Waterston
from
on Law and
Order. Wow.
How old do you think he is?
100. No, well, he's got to be.
He's 100.
He's got to be 82.
83.
Wow.
So you got a long way to go before you're the oldest guy.
Yeah. Well,
Extended Family, NBC.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited.
I got to tell you, I don't know that I've ever been in the company of someone who's had so many network shows. No joke.
I've had more failed pilots than the Iraqi Air Force. But I got to tell you, I've been on every network with a show and been the lead. And I have never been happier than where I am right now. Because NBC and Lionsgate, they said, Lenny, are you happy? I said, am I happy? I'm like a rescue dog before he was gassed. Are you kidding me? I couldn't be happier. I'm so happy to be. And the people I'm working with, between Wick Grossbeck, Amelia, Tom Werner, Mike O'Malley, John, the whole cast.
Right.
It's incredible.
Well, we got to back up for a second because I got to kind of figure this out. Because, obviously, if you've seen this show, and if you haven't, then you need to watch it on Tuesday nights. It's at 8:30 on NBC here. This is the story of Wick Grousbeck, the owner of the Celtics, his second wife, and her ex-husband.
Yep.
So, is it irony that you ended up in this show as a Bostonian? Or, how did this all happen?
Wick had mentioned to me a few years back that he was going to write a treatment and would I be interested? I went, yeah. And then Mike O'Malley had said, Lenny, I really want to work with you again. And I go, yeah. And then Tom Werner goes, you'd be perfect for it. I said, Tom, I said, I'm a phone call away. What are these people thinking? What I mean? When I'm not doing network television, I'm doing stand-up.
Right.
And I've done it for almost 50 years, and, I'm ready to let the kids have it. You know what I mean? So I couldn't believe that it was like a perfect storm of people coming together.
Yeah.
And I ended up on the show.
So did you have competition? Was somebody else reading for your part? What
You know,
happened?
they had originally asked me to come out and do a couple shows, and I said okay. So I was going by the green room, and I saw my face on a TV, and someone was saying, "This isn't working out." I went, "Duh, I'm going to get fired." And then Lionsgate said, "It's definitely not working out." And I went, "Oh my God, I'm going to get fired! I only did one show." And they said, "We need him every show." And I went, "Oh!" So I went right to craft services. Said, "Give me something to eat." I'm staying.
I'm ready for a snack.
Yeah, I'm staying.
So, Lenny, of course, was not the only comedian over the course of the year that we have had. There have been lots of funny people who have joined us, but one of my other favorites was Christine Hurley. She joined us, and she was a co-host, and she, like always, left me in stitches. Take a listen.
When the baby was probably 2 years old, this was in 2002 or 2003, Jimmy signed me up for the Nickelodeon Nick at Night's Funniest Mom in America contest.
So clearly you were funny.
Yes. Yep. Always.
I mean, you've just always had a great sense of humor.
Yes. Always did. Killing it at barbecues and Tupperware parties and, cookie swaps. And, they would always invite me. I was the good time gal, So he sent this beautiful letter to Viacom, the MTV people. And,
sure.
My wife's not a stand-up comic, but she would, please take a look at her. So they did. They brought us down to New York, and I had no idea what we were doing. And they had about 100-something people auditioning at the Laugh Factory in Times Square at the time. And I said, "Well, what are we doing?" They said, "You have to do 3 minutes of stand-up." I said, "Well, I'm not a stand-up." So we wung it, me and Jimmy. We wrote it on a cocktail napkin, and I got up, and I did my thing, and it was... And Jimmy, God love him, he's like the biggest supporter. The whole time he was just down in the Jack Daniels because he was so nervous, and he kept saying, everyone that would get up, he kept saying, "You're better than this. You are gonna kill this." So I got up, I did my thing, and the producers and everyone were like, "Where do you work in Boston?" And I said, "I don't. This is my first time doing this." And the sound guy came around the corner and he said, "She's telling the truth," because the girl before me was almost 6 feet tall. So the microphone, I had no experience in adjusting the microphone, so I spoke my whole set like this.
And for people at home and those who can't see you, I'd say I'm
5'2". 5'2". Yeah, 5'2". With Aquanet 5'3". Yeah, but yeah. So I had to tippy toe to do my thing because I didn't want to touch the mic. I didn't know how to do it, and so it just took off from there. I ended up coming in first runner up. It was like an 8-week thing. They kept flying us back down to New York. It was great. It was great. So, but when I came back to Boston, I was unknown.
Right. Absolutely.
Nobody
and
knew.
You want to talk about a tough business?
Oh.
I mean, honestly, of all the businesses, because for people, I think comedy sometimes can be subjective.
100%.
It's about what you think is funny,
100%.
So you're trying to meet a really wide range of taste.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it. And it started like, at the baseball field with my kids. And, it started to when my kids got older and got involved in school and sports. And then I met all the other parents and, we would go to the baseball games. And I just thought I thought the baseball process was absolutely horrible, and the coach's son got everything and we got nothing, and so I just started saying, "Hello, is anyone else here with me? This is like the Emperor's New Clothes." Does everyone realize he's naked? It was just terrible.
Can you not say the
terrible? Yeah.
Well, I want to tell you when we went and saw you, and we left. My husband and I were talking about the fact that what we loved about you and love now, and we love about comedians, are comedians who can laugh at everyday things. Like the fact that the baseball thing is rigged.
Exactly.
For Little League.
Absolutely.
I mean, and anybody can tell a dirty joke.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I find that to be cheap.
I agree.
You tell a joke about things that everyone can relate to.
Exactly. It's stories.
Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really funny.
I appreciate that, Kim. So I'm very self-absorbed, So my whole life I was always, look at me, what can I say, what can I do? So yeah, it's the best job in the world. So when I got to Boston, it took me 3 or 4 years probably to climb my way.
Yeah.
And Lenny Clark, God bless him, was on hiatus from Rescue Me at the time. Someone said to him, "Go see this girl." I was doing a fundraiser in South Boston, and he came to thing. I didn't know he was there. And the next morning, my phone rang, and it was Langley Clark, and he said, "I'm going to make you a star." And he's been wonderful.
he has.
He did. Him
Yeah.
and his brother Mike Clark, Mike who owns
Right.
Giggles, they've been amazing to me.
Lenny Clark, Christine Hurley. You would think when it comes to comedians, it wouldn't get any better. But I have to tell you, we called Jimmy Dunn, and wow, did we laugh hard. Now, Jimmy Dunn is actually not just a comedian. He's an actor like Lenny Clark. And Jimmy is on the reboot of Frasier. I went back and watched this 2 seasons of that reboot. He's very funny, and the show is very good. You'll find it on Paramount, by the way. Anyway, so I talked to him a little bit about what that experience is like. Take a listen. You also have a reoccurring role on the reboot of Frasier.
Yeah.
I was one of the biggest Frasier fans first time around, and thrilled that this reboot was coming. I have seen every episode. Love it. It has really turned out great.
It's really great, right?
It is really good.
People hear reboot and they go, "Oh, they're rehashing something," but it's actually really, really great. And the number one reason is Kelsey Grammer is phenomenal at what he does, and he just is that character so well. And then he's developed this team of writers over the years, and there are new writers too, but they know how to write to that character. He is just an absolute pro, and he's directing them all. And the episodes that I've been in have either been directed by Kelsey Grammer or Jim Burrows.
Oh my gosh, darn. That's terrible,
I think those guys know what they're doing.
I think they
So even when
certainly
I
do.
don't know what I'm doing, which is most of the time, they, "Hey, Moose."
Well, that's not true though. I mean, this is not your first rodeo when it comes to TV either.
It's not. It's my second really big thing.
Yeah.
The McCarthy's was the first big one, and that was great. And in the McCarthy's, I played a character who used to be a basketball star in high school, had since let himself go, and now enjoys sandwiches more than he enjoys basketball, but still relives the glory days.
Yep.
Chubby and dim. Those were the words in the description of the character when I got the audition.
Oh, that's tough.
And here's the best part. That came across a desk in Boston, right? And the casting agency in Boston read chubby and dim former athlete and went, "Well, you got to call Jimmy." And thank God she did. Thank you, Melissa. And that one was.
If they know your name, you don't care how you got there, right? Doesn't make any difference with the adjectives.
But here's the best part. I played chubby and dim so well that when they were looking for a chubby and dim firefighter for Frasier, the casting director in L.A. went, "What about that kid from Boston?" And
I love it. I
here
love
we
it.
are.
Yeah, so let's go back to this for just a second. The reboot, for those of you who have not seen it, Frasier has moved back to Boston.
Yes.
He's had a few stops since Seattle. He's gone to Chicago, and he's had a TV show and whatever. He's come back, and what I love about this reboot, and this was so smart, I think, is that they didn't actually take every character and try to move it back. They brought a few characters back in, but built a new life for him, and that's where you come in because
Well, that's
you're
right.
here in Boston.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's his third act of his life, and he has decided that he has to do right by his son, and he has to go find his son. He left his son in Boston at Harvard.
Yep.
Well, since then, his son left Harvard and became a Boston firefighter, and he's a really good, really smart firefighter, and his best friend is a really good firefighter, but not so smart about anything else.
Moose.
And that's Moose.
Yeah.
And that's me, and I get to play.
great.
So I play his son's buddy in the firehouse, and it is. It's really cool that it came all the way full circle back to Boston.
Absolutely.
And when the first season, when we were taping it, I couldn't tell anybody. We all had to keep it secret because they didn't want the word getting out that he was coming back to Boston. They didn't want to give away that storyline until they started marketing the show.
Sure.
So I was out in L.A., and all my friends were like, "Where's Jimmy? What is he doing?" And everybody was trying to guess what it was. And nobody ever would have guessed it was Frasier.
Right. A reboot of Frasier, which is so great.
Yeah, it's really
so you
cool.
go to L.A. to do it.
I do, yeah.
Season 2 has dropped.
Yeah.
What, is there a season 3 in the works?
I sure hope so. I don't know.
Yeah, you guys kind of hanging tight?
Well, they'll put out 2, and then the people will decide if they want more. I know Kelsey's on record as saying, "I'll do another 10 seasons if they'll have me." And he's still got it. It's still really good.
Yeah.
There's so much of that classic Frasier, that French farce kind of thing that they do so well.
Yes.
And I was a monster Cheers fan, as everybody else in this city was.
Well, right.
I never would have imagined that
Someday-
character was going to get spun off, and someday I'm going to be walking into a bar
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth? I hadn't even really stopped to think about that. To me, Frasier is such a character that I forget that he really was a spinoff from Cheers,
Hello,
for goodness
Sam.
sakes. Exactly.
I'll tell you.
Lilith, that's where he came to know her.
I did an episode with her, and she was awesome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. I don't want to embarrass her because she's sitting over there. Don't put her on camera. But the first episode that I got to do, I rehearsed. I got the audition. I got the show. Oh my God, we're going to L.A. to do this, and then we rehearse all week. And then my first scene is I literally walk into a bar.
Yes.
With Kelsey Grammer. So they're warming up the audience as they do because it's halfway through the taping thing, and they're playing music to keep the audience hyped up, and they play Shipping Up to Boston, and then they play the theme to Cheers, right? And I'm like, oh, my heart's coming out of my chest. Going, this is the coolest, right? I look out at my wife who's sitting in the front row. She got a tear.
Right, I would have been too.
But not now. I'm like, honey, pull it together. I can't do this right now because I'm going, oh no, come on. It was just an absolute amazing moment that I never could have seen coming.
That Jimmy Dunn, I love him. I'm actually going to see him live on stage in January, so it should be a lot of fun. If you haven't seen any of those three comedians before, be sure you check them out. They're usually at Giggles or they're someplace here local. They're fun, and supporting them is a great thing, so be sure you check it out. All right, I'm going to take a break, but when I come back on the other side, I want to show you some of the co-hosts who have joined me, who have been my longtime friends from television. They have all been so supportive, and I've been so lucky that they have joined me here on Carrigan Company. You're listening to Carrigan Company. Are you looking for the perfect holiday gift for the Boston lover on your list? My friends at College Hype can help. My City Gear, powered by College Hype, has a wide array of custom apparel for your favorite townie. Shop for short and long sleeve t-shirts, hoodies, and much more, all in a wide variety of designs. Plus, they have apparel that's specific to Boston, Charlestown, Dorchester, and Southie. Enter code KIM20 at mycitygear.com to get 20% off your entire order. That's promo code KIM20 for 20% off at mycitygear.com. This segment of Carrigan & Company is brought to you by Lucia Lighting and Design, where people in the know go for the best possible lighting and design experience. Welcome back, everybody, to the special edition of Carrigan & Company, being released today on Christmas Eve. I hope everybody is having a great holiday season. I know that I am. I'm actually not here in the studio. We are taping a little bit early for obvious reasons. So I am somewhere with my family, and I hope that's where you are too, and listening to Carrigan & Company. We have done 48 shows so far, which is just unbelievable to me. We started last January. It's been an unbelievable ride. I have had so many people who have been kind enough to join me here in the studio as co-hosts or as guests. You just heard some of the comedians who have been co-hosts, and now I wanted to remind you of some of the great segments that we've had with some of my TV friends who have joined me here in the studio. So let's get started with my very first TV friend who joined me. And that was, of course, my longtime co-host at Fox 25 here in Boston, Gene Levanchi. It's good to see you.
This feels oddly familiar and comfortable.
You know, I'll tell you something. What's really weird is you always sat, we even sat in this direction.
I know, yeah.
This is the way we sat.
Yep.
So, obviously...
But I didn't have a lovely Carrigan & Company mug at the time. Now I do, so I feel like...
Well, I pushed for it then, but you had a little more control at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe,
so, obviously, Gene is the current co-host of Boston 25. And, when I think about this, I have to tell you, I think about it a little bit differently. And this is no disrespect to, obviously, the show that you're on now, which is fantastic. But we were Fox 25, and you guys are Boston 25, and the shows were decidedly different.
Yeah, they are. We were, when I tell people about the old show we have, can you describe it? I said, well, it was one part traditional morning newscast, one part Today Show, and 3 parts Gong Show, because there was all kinds of crazy stuff that we used to do, and it was a lot of fun, and it appealed to the viewers. It was really different than anything else that was going on in local television at the time. Yeah. And you'll remember that we were owned by Fox at the time, and they thought so much about what we were doing that they brought in other Fox stations, other Fox morning shows from all around the country. They flew in and did a seminar based on our show and what we were doing and saying, this is how you should be doing it in your city.
And if you remember, their talent and their producers would come over and ask us questions. And quite frankly, what we would all say behind the scenes was, hey, you just throw it against the wall and you hope it works. I mean, we had no idea why it worked, except that we all liked one another.
Well, I think that was the big thing, is that there was really great chemistry between everybody. And it was, and a lot of it, I mean, you and I knew each other, so by the time you came in, that was great. And you helped really elevate us. But, you know, I give Greg Kelly, who was the general manager at the time, and Lisa Hall a lot of credit, because they brought in different, we didn't really know each other. I didn't know VB prior to that.
Right.
Didn't know Anquinette. I did know Doug Meehan.
Yep, we knew Doug.
So there was some
Didn't know
familiarity.
Cindy.
Didn't know Cindy, but you threw it all together and it really clicked and it worked. And to this day, people are still asking about it. And we had a get together not too long ago with everybody, and we didn't miss a beat. Everybody just picked up and started laughing. A lot of our producers and technical people who were part of that too were there. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a really tight knit crew. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a couple of minutes, but I just wanted to back up a little bit because I want to make us both really feel old.
That won't be hard.
Okay, we're done.
Yeah, right.
No, so Gene and I actually, you know, a lot of people remember us from Fox 25, but we actually started together over Channel 7.
Yes, we did.
So you were the weekend sports anchor, and I was the weekend anchor.
Yes.
And you were already there.
Yes.
And on my very first weekend, you were not there. And the reason you weren't there is because you and Anne Marie were having your first baby.
So that must have been March 23rd, 1994.
And there you go. So Maddie, now
yes, I have a soon-to-be 30-year-old, if that's what you're...
That's it.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, right,
the first time I met you, you were pushing a stroller, and that newborn was in the stroller, and we have been friends since.
Yep.
We really have.
You came in from Des Moines, right?
I came from Des Moines, absolutely. So I came from a little tiny market, and you had been in the market, but you'd been down in Florida for a while.
My first job was in Fort Myers, and then after that, a couple years there, I wound up in Providence. And then while in Providence, after a year, I worked concurrently at TV 38 doing Bruins hockey. I was a studio host there, which was an unbelievable job and a huge break for me. Thank you, Ken London.
And you had a mustache, if I remember correctly.
I did not. I never had a mustache. Okay. If I wanted a mustache now, I would have had to start growing it then. So, but it was a high-profile gig, and it worked out. And then I knew people at Channel 7, and then there was an opportunity there, so it all worked out great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we were together on the weekends for a pretty short amount of time, both of us. And then we both moved to the weeknights. One of my favorite Channel 7 stories, I have to tell you, with Gene, is that in '97, we went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, down in New Orleans.
So we left on. So Patriots were taking on Green Bay.
Yep.
And we left on Sunday prior to the Super Bowl. So we were there a full week. Mm-hmm. There were about 15 of us on the crew, and I was the only woman. And so we were staying in the hotel in the Quarter, which was like the official hotel, if you remember, the NFL official hotel.
Their headquarters.
And they put me in the room across from the elevator. And I immediately became the mother. And so at 2, 3, 4 a.m., I could hear the elevator doors, and they'd be like, shh, that's her room right there. Shh. And you all would be glowing down the
I don't know why. I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, remember, we worked late, right?
So did I.
I know, but you didn't stay out late. That was a great trip. I mean, we had a lot of fun there.
It was
Fortunately, the
unbelievable.
game didn't turn out, the way everybody had hoped. But
right. And local crews don't do that anymore. They don't send 15 people down a full week ahead of time and do all those
plus
shows.
You had
and
to have a satellite truck, which nobody uses anymore because you had to use Now you just use the web or the internet, and that takes your signal. The contraption called a live view. Instead of a big truck, now you have something the size of a backpack, and that gets your signal up.
Through the years, isn't it amazing how the technology has changed?
Unbelievable.
Everything has changed. Yeah. Anyway, Gene and I were there at Channel 7 for those years, and Gene left and went one direction, and I went a different. And then we ended up back there at Fox 25, and we started that really crazy experience.
Well, you think
it was
about
great fun.
The guests we had coming through, the things we used to do, it's crazy. You were a terrific pole dancer, in case anybody didn't remember that story we did.
I did more things at Fox 25. I'll tell you.
But that was the great thing. Everybody said, I'm in, I'll do it. And that's how it worked. Nobody was like,
So I pole danced there. I'll tell you one of my moments that my kids will never forget. Remember, VB got married.
Yes.
And so we had a ceremony on
the
air.
studio, yes.
And Howie Carr came
Yep.
and officiated. And then after the wedding, we had a reception out on the patio. And at every good reception, you have to have a good dance. So Cindy and I, for whatever reason, decided that we would do the chicken dance. And it was a moment that I couldn't take back. And when I got home, my kids, of all the things I have done, my kids said to me, if you ever chicken dance on television again, Mom, never.
and they saw the pole dancing thing. They said this was worse.
I think at least they thought that was kind of cool. Chicken dancing is not cool. Let's just face it.
But we had the bald beauty mugs, all kinds of stuff we did. And nobody once let ego get in the way or anything. It was like, okay, if it's good for the show, we'll do it.
Yeah,
and that's
we
why
did.
it worked so well.
We did,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we were blessed with the fact that a lot of people would come through that studio.
We did. We had quite a few.
I mean, it was
thinking
amazing.
I was thinking right here. I mean, some of the people we had, actors. Matt Damon came in. Dennis Leary was with us a bunch of times. John Krasinski came in. Henry Winkler. You remember that day? He was awesome.
Nicest man on
Brian
earth.
Adams came in.
Oh, yeah.
He was John Waite came in and he performed.
Huey Lewis and
Huey-
the news came in.
Well, he didn't have the news. It was just Huey.
Do you
He came
remember?
in, and that was a great day. And then the Bare Naked Ladies came in, and they performed a song off a kids' album that they had. So it was just one thing after another, and you never knew what was coming in the next day, and it was a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. Gene. He is my dear friend. That is for certain. It was great fun to have him here. I'd like to have him back in 2025, so we're going to have to work on that. I met a new friend, I must tell you, from television. Now, this was the craziest thing. Levin Reed from Channel 4 was my co-host. I had never met Levin. He and I had passed in the night constantly, certainly knew that booming voice, who doesn't, but we had just never really connected in person. So it was such a treat to get to meet him here, and he was kind enough to come in and spend a couple of hours with me. Take a listen. You'll know that booming voice as well. Here's Levin Reed. That voice.
13.
Kiddo. 13?
13 it changed. My voice changed at 13, and my mom was very adamant about, by the way, Levin, you're going to be making money with that voice, so I don't know what you plan on doing, but it's going to be dealing with that thing. And I was like, are you sure? She was like, oh, yeah. So 13, changed schools, more of a performance school where I learned diction a little bit better, and you're doing voiceover work at an early age. And she was like, no, that's your ticket. And this was me. So you think I'm ugly. So that's what we're getting at, Mom. So you're saying I have the voice, but this is all I got. That's what you're getting at. I should just sit at home and eat cheeseburgers all day. I got you.
That is not what she was saying. There is no mother who sees that.
Exactly.
And that's
He
not
wasn't.
true.
But when you're young, you know how you think about things. You're like, okay, Mom, I see where we're getting at. I say,
Well, was it a problem at any point? Did you feel like I've got this booming? I mean, 13 kids had to have been pointing out.
so, but you feel like you're like the tall kid in class.
Yeah, I guess.
Where
I guess.
everybody's treating you older than you are.
Absolutely.
And you're only 13.
Yeah.
So everybody's treating you. And I mean, I'll tell a quick story. At 15, I tried out for a job at WBLS in radio into the city. And I was like, I'm gonna audition. Who's gonna care? And it was for the night hours. So I was like, hey, this is Levin Reed. We're going to tune in for the late hours. This is going to be a fantastic time. If you have your girlfriend out there or you want to hold somebody tight, I'm going to play a song to make sure that you can, whatever you need the time to do it. If you need to say goodbye, you need to say hello, you need to say I'm sorry. This is the time to do it. So I did a good audition. And I got the job.
I bet you did.
So then I had to go home and tell my dad, hey, I took a train into the city, and they want me to do the midnight hour from 12 to 4 on Friday and Saturday. And he was like, so let me get this straight. You're going to do the midnight hour from 12 to 4 on Friday and Saturday, come back, play football on Saturday, and then go back on Sunday night, but you're not going to hang out with your friends? I was like, I'm not going to be able to if I get this job, if they give me this job, Dad. And he said, I'll drive you.
Did Dad get up and drive you?
He drove me. He's like, I'll drive you. If you're planning, and his thought was, if you're going to do this,
yeah,
and this is what you want your path to be,
then I'm going to help you.
I'm going to help you. If I can keep you away from all that stuff that could be going on,
absolutely,
and you're trying to make money on the weekends and doing 5 days a week of school, I'll help you. So yeah, he was all about it.
You know, you did. I don't know if he ever told you eventually. He told you because he drove you. But eventually, you know, he probably wanted to tell you that was the greatest day of my life.
Oh, without
I
question.
would be happy to be up at any hour.
Right.
If I knew I wasn't coming to get you out of jail or something like that, right?
Yeah, and again,
Instead, I'm going to get
I
you
was never that kid, but he was just, but you never know.
Right.
You never know. So he was
Right,
like, I'll
right.
grab you. We're good.
Well, it's a fabulous voice. And for
Thank
those
you.
of us who have great appreciation, and that's, by the way, anyone, for your voice. I know on social media when we said that you were going to be here to co-host, we started getting comments about, oh, his pipes. They're unbelievable. I love that Levin Reed. And boy, that voice. Boy, oh boy. Another co-host that I had was someone that I worked with for a long time at Fox 25, but she and I worked opposite schedules. Now, that didn't mean I didn't know her. I just didn't get to see her very often. So it was great to reunite here in the studio. You know her as the co-host of WCVB, Channel 5's Evening News. Maria Stefanos came in to see me, and I asked Maria, what did she want to do with her life after television? And you may not be surprised to hear what she had to say. I am so honored to have my co-host who's keeping me company today with me, an old friend I've known for a long time. She's not old. We've just known each other for a long time. Maria Stefanos from WCVB. I always hate it when people go, oh, my old friend.
No, but I am your old friend, and I am your old friend. Come on now. We've known each other a long time. Hi, Kim.
It's so good to have you here.
You
I'm so
look
glad.
like $50 million.
Oh, thank you very much.
Wow,
I'm going to give you 10 minutes to stop that.
Well, I'm going to tell you those shoes are everything.
Yes, I'm wearing.
She shows them. You look amazing.
Thank
This
you
is such
so
a pleasure
much.
to be here
Oh,
with
I'm
you.
so glad that you are here. You walked in and you said, wow, this is isn't it cool? It's a fun place.
The real deal.
Yeah, it's
with
fun.
lights and this and
it's
this
fun.
is the garden.
Yeah, and we're here at the garden where, of course, this is the center of the world
Right now, we're both wearing our Celtic screens.
We
so
are.
Let's hope that
we are.
continues.
So much fun going on down here. So good to see you. You know, when I was getting ready for this, I did check it out because I couldn't remember, Maria. I mean, you and I obviously crossed over at Fox.
Right.
But I couldn't remember how long you'd been there because you'd been there before I arrived to do the morning show.
Right.
You were there 18 years,
18
kiddo.
years.
I don't know anybody else. Maybe Gene Levanchi. I don't have many contemporaries who have stayed in one station for 18 years.
It's a long time, and it was a privilege, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
And now I'm 8 years at Channel 5.
It's hard for me. First off, you started when you were like 10.
No, I didn't.
Well, you did. You
I love you, Kim.
You did. But you know what is so amazing is that you've had the opportunity to work that long in your home market. You know, that's something else that doesn't happen very often. I mean, you're born and raised here, and that's amazing.
I'm such a local girl, and I watched local television when I was a kid. I watched Channel 5.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was amazing, and I would watch it go on the air before I went to school in the Groveland school system. And just to be able to do it was incredible and a privilege. And it's still a privilege to this day.
Yeah.
It is. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love news. And I think it's so important to our communities that we continue this whole thing. Local news is important, Kim.
Well, you know what? I feel really strongly about that as well. You know, people talk all the time about the fact that news is going away because you have so many sources to get your news. And there's some truth in that. We know that, right? Mm-hmm. From the time you and I started to now,
it's so
I mean,
different.
the world is very, very
So
different when it comes to communications. But having said that, I always tell people local news will never go away. You will always want to know what's happening in your neighborhood,
Yes, it matters.
in your community. It does matter.
It matters, and people can choose where they want to watch. That doesn't bother me. I want them to do that.
Sure.
We all have a choice, and we like this and we like that, but just to be able to continue to tell the stories of the people in our backyards, in our front yards, people we don't know. I love it.
Yeah.
I still love it.
Absolutely.
After all these years.
I get it. It's the connection to the audience that makes all the difference.
Right.
It really does.
And look at
doesn't
you,
it?
still connecting.
Yeah, it's important to me. I'm the same way. I feel very strongly about that. And the Boston audience has been very good to you, and they've been good to me.
They've been good to
we've
both of us. Thank you very much, Boston audience.
There, we've been very, very lucky. That's for sure. I can't wait till Maria opens that food truck because I'm going to be one of the first in line. I have had the great pleasure of having a few snacks from her at different parties that she has brought. Ooh, she can cook. All right, let's take a look at another one of my co-hosts, someone who is a very good friend of mine, who also is from WCVB, but he's working that morning shift. You all know him as Dougie. I know him as that as well. Doug Meehan joined me right here in the studio. You know, I just said I've known you for such a long time, but I totally forgot. Now, just take you back a little bit, okay? Obviously, we had our Fox 25 days together.
Yeah.
But I just recently, and I know you saw it too,
Promo?
a promo from Channel 7, and you were the photog in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That was
totally
right
forgot.
after, in between Providence and Hartford reporting, but it was also, I call it that was my second tour of duty at Channel 7, whereas before I was a photog there Monday through Friday and a one-man band at New England Cable News.
I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah, 7 days a week.
I want to tell everybody who's watching and listening, you've never met anybody who has done more in their life than Doug Meehan. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I
don't know if that's good or bad. I mean,
well, no, it's good. It's good. You were like a ferry guy.
Ferry boat captain. Yeah. Make sure you finish that. Make sure you finish that, will you? Ferry boat captain. Just so you.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's
yeah.
all right.
Maybe I had my story
That's all right.
confused.
We had to clarify for that for the folks at home. Yeah. That
it.
was running the boat between Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard for Highline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made you a Nantucket guy.
It did. Whatever island is your first is the
Yeah.
one you stay connected to.
Yeah.
And I was a deckhand on the Brant Point in 1982, and that was my route 2 days a week, and I fell in love with Nantucket.
Isn't that unbelievable? Yeah. But I had forgotten, Doug, that you've worked outside the market quite a bit. I mean, obviously, you're from here. You're
Grew up in Cape
born and
Cod.
raised. Yeah. And Yarmouth, right?
I did.
Yeah.
DUI, class of 82, go Dolphins.
There you go. I think that is an automatic.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that
so you
just
just throw
that
it.
goes. That's the tag.
Go Dolphins. Yeah.
And then you went away. You went to Texas twice, I think. Right?
I did. I went to, if you want the route, it was Providence, Hartford, Austin, Texas, Tampa, Florida, Dallas, Texas, 2 stops at TV stations in Dallas, then back to Boston, and then out to Phoenix, and then back to Boston. So it's all about staying employed, really.
Well,
and
listen,
it's
I
a
know.
fickle business.
Right. Yep.
I mean, we both know that. And some things are out of your control, and you just keep hanging in there, and you just, by the way, yes, I did radio too here in Boston.
Yeah, you sure did. Yeah,
so-
I followed you right in.
Right.
You did it, and I did it there at that same
And it
exact
was
radio
after that,
station.
and it was just out to Phoenix from there. So
Yeah.
I knew I had to get back into television, and now here I am at Channel 5 and loving it. Absolutely loving it.
Yeah. Well,
Found
we
a
all
great
love
home.
you there. You found the perfect spot for yourself.
Well, we have
I
such
think.
a great team, a great group. It's such a legendary and iconic station,
Yeah.
and it's just with Antoinette and Cindy and Katie and the whole team. It's just awesome.
It's so good. I'm so glad.
Thank you.
So I think a lot of people, one of the things I always like to do here on the podcast is just talk about people and about some of the things that they do that maybe people don't know.
Oh.
And I know that you've talked about it some on the air, but, the photography thing is a big deal for you now.
It's really been a fun hobby. Being out on the streets reporting in the early morning hours, I would always be on scenes or watch sunrises, and I always had the phone with me.
Sure.
But I said there has to be a better way of doing this. I took it in college, and so I was in the dark room and the changing of the film in the dark room, and now we have Lightroom, and it makes it so much easier for people to be able to go out, and you can learn everything on YouTube. And I found that I get great enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
I like creating art, if you will, and that's just my way of doing art.
You've got a great eye. I mean, you really do.
Well.
And I mean, it's not surprising to me because of just how we started this whole thing, this conversation about the fact that you were a photog for a while. I mean, you had an eye then. But now, this is really, really good, Doug.
Well, thanks. I think it's just a matter of getting out there and working on the craft.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's what it is. And people go, I'd like to be able to take pictures like that. And I go, well, you can. You just,
Well, I don't
you got to
know.
get out there and you got to kind of see and find the things that you like. getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning every day allows me the fact that I can,
Yes, you can.
set the alarm clock for 4 and feel like I slept in.
Right.
And
right.
so I get up.
On Saturday, you get up,
set
you're
a
out there by then.
Yeah, get out before the sunrise. And there's nothing better. I mean, I find it to be such an amazing place when you're by yourself and the sun's coming up and
Yeah.
you're seeing things that people don't get to see unless they are early risers.
Sure.
And just putting it out there to share with the world. And I just have fun creating it.
I have to tell you, it is so fun to revisit all of these interviews and the time that I got to spend with all of these good friends here in the studio. And I've said it before, but I'll say it again. It's just been such a delight, and they've been so supportive of me and our podcast here, and we very much appreciate it. These people are individuals that you see come into your homes all the time, but they're my friends, and I greatly appreciate the time that they have given me here. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back on the other side, let's talk a little bit more about some of the great people who have joined me here in the studio, many of whom have come from the radio side of things. This is Carrigan Company. It's the most wonderful time of the year. You want to know why? Because it's Lucia Lighting and Design's annual Red Tag Sale. Head to Lucia Lighting and Design at 311 Western Avenue in Lynn before the end of January for the best deals of the year. Lucia has hundreds of items with red sale tags on them, and that means 50% off. These are one-of-a-kind display pieces that you won't want to miss. Don't wait. Get to Lucia Lighting and Design before the end of January for their annual Red Tag Sale. Learn more about my favorite lighting design store at lucialighting.com.
If you like rum, you're going to love Rumson's Rum, New England's most award-winning rum brand. Rumson creates distinctive and savory flavor profiles by hand-selecting and marrying the finest barrel-aged Caribbean rums. The spirits are then blended and finished in the New England Rum House. Choose from Rumson's Gold, Spiced, Grand Reserve, or Coffee Rum, which is smooth and sweet with a warm roasted coffee flavor, a hint of vanilla, and a decadent buttery finish. Find Rumson's at liquor stores or ask for it at your favorite restaurant. Learn more at rumsons.com. That's rumsons.com. Rumsons. Life lived, life enjoyed.
This segment of Carrigan Company is brought to you by Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater. Get your tickets for the 2025 season now at nsmt.org. Welcome back, everybody, to Carrigan Company Special Edition. We're sort of recapping what this first year of Carrigan Company has been all about. We've done 48 episodes thus far, and we've been lucky enough to have so many great co-hosts who have kept me company during the course of those 48 episodes. We've also had lots of really terrific guests. So thank you to everybody who has supported us. I've had a lot of laughs, and I've also had some tears here in the studio from some very gripping stories that have been told. So we've been lucky. And if you've missed a lot of Carrigan Company, you can easily go back and listen to those episodes. They're available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch them. They are streamed on YouTube. So you saw some of my TV friends, but we also had a bunch of radio friends come in to visit and to keep me company as well. Let's start with somebody that I've known for quite some time, Sue Tabb. You and I have known each other since, I remember when you were on Kiss 108.
Kiss 108, yes. With Maddie, my first ever radio job, by the way.
But I did not know this story.
Yes.
Our mutual friend, Dave Thompson, who is the producer of this show, he shared this with me. You've got to share with people how you got that radio gig.
Yeah, it's just unheard of. It's just not the way people get a job. In fact, my husband always says I should write a book called How to Get a Job You Have No Business Even Applying For, which I had no business. I was a marketing manager.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten promoted to be a district marketing manager for a cable company. So, I had this nice secure job, no radio experience, but I was a fan of Maddie in the Morning, and I know that their female host had left. So
reason enough, right?
I'm
a fan.
I could do that, Maddie in the Morning, and people are like, you have no radio experience. I'm like, but I think I could do it. So this was back in 1995. I'm aging myself. But I wrote a note and faxed it to Maddie himself.
Now, what did you say on that, Sue?
It said, I know you don't know who I am, but I know I'd be great at this. And I composed it so he wouldn't think I was some sort of stalker, but that he would know that I was familiar with the show.
Right.
So I made some references to some of the things that they talk about on the show. And I said, I read People magazine from cover to cover, but I ignore my Wall Street Journal, and, call me, won't you? And I wrote, call me, ... won't you? And then I just faxed it with the cover said, to Matt from Sue, no last name. Because I thought that way he'll be like, who is this person? I got home that night from work, and there was a message on my machine, my answering machine at the time, that's what we had, that said...
After she faxed it.
After
on
I faxed it.
answering
Then
machine.
the answering machine. Then the smoke signals, no. So there was from him, from Maddie, saying, and I quote, I don't know who the hell you are, and you have a 1 in a million chance of getting this job, but I thought your note was clever.
I just cannot. I mean, this is a fairy tale.
It was a fairy tale, but then I had to actually go in, and I was scared to death because they said you're going to have to read traffic live on tape, meaning at the time I wasn't live on the air, but they wouldn't edit it. So I was going to have to, they were going to speak to me, and then I was going to read some traffic reports, and whatever it was going the way it went. So I was a nervous wreck.
I'll bet.
And Matt didn't even meet me until he listened to the tape because he wanted to make sure that, I was at least halfway normal. And so then they called me and they said, come on in, we'll meet you. And a couple weeks later, they said, we're going to try you out. Now, when somebody says we're going to try you out, and then we'll decide in like 90 days if we'll put you under contract. Well, now I have to decide, do I leave my comfortable job where my star is just rising? I've just gotten this big promotion, and I know that there's a place for me here for many years, and try this, or what do you do? But then I was like, at the time, I don't even think I was married yet. No, I wasn't married yet, didn't have kids. I was in an apartment, didn't have a mortgage, so I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I'm not going to be on the streets. And I'm like, if I don't do it, 10 years from now, I'm going to go, I wonder what would have happened if I ever went on the Maddie show. Yeah. So off I went. And one other note, on my first day, I had no idea that Matt doesn't care what management says. He does his own thing. Well, the guy who hired me said, don't speak other than traffic. You're only to read traffic. We don't know if we're going to make you a personality on the show. So I said, okay, well, Matt didn't.
First thing he did was start talking to you.
First thing he did was flip my mic on. I see the red light go on, and I'm like this. And he's like, hey, new girl. I was like, but then the rest is history.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. So that was my good friend, Sue Tabb. She, of course, is the co-host of the Magic 106.7 morning show. You can catch her every single morning. Here's somebody else you can catch in the mornings. Romero was one of my co-hosts. He's, of course, part of the Get Up crew on Hot 96.9. We had a blast chatting about the last time we had seen each other and some of the stuff that he's doing there on the radio. I'm so happy to have Romero Torres from, of course, Hot 96.9. It's great to see you.
I know. It's been a while.
It has been. First off, I have to tell you, to say your name, your first name and your second name, your last name together, for me, seems so strange.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just Romero for all of us. You know that, right? All you need is one name. And I mean, I've always wanted to be that person. Just one name. That's it.
When I call to make appointments for the doctor or the dentist, I don't even say Torres. I go, hey, listen, it's Romero. Can I do this? I feel like Madonna.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Beyonce. I mean, there's only so many who could just use one name.
No, you know what's funny? Growing up in Everett when I was little, I was one of 3 Romeros that I knew that lived in Everett, which is crazy because everyone's like, I don't know any Romeros, such a unique name. And I'm like, well, there was me, my dad, and a family friend who all had the name growing up. It was like John.
Yeah, right. For you guys, it was John when you were little. Hey, how long in radio?
How long? Oh, I'll tell you right now. So on the radio, I did my first show. I just celebrated June 6, 1995. I just celebrated 29 years. Yeah.
I was going to help you just in case you didn't know. Wow. Look at you.
Yeah, it's
look
crazy.
At you. It's so great. It's so great. And you haven't, the crazy part about your career is that you've been in this major market really essentially the entire time.
Yeah. So June 6th was my first show at Fun 107 in New Bedford. But then at June 28th was my first show in Boston.
Yeah. So. I mean, that doesn't happen to most people. You know that, right?
I know. And everyone told me that. And have you heard of The Secret? Like
Yes.
Secret law of attraction and stuff like that? I didn't know about it back then, but that's kind of what I was practicing in my head. I was like envisioning it and, saying, well, just because no one's done it yet, I can't do it. And It ended up happening. And then years later, I found out about The Secret, and I'm like, damn, I should have written that book.
I knew about The Secret long before they did.
Yeah.
How long have you done mornings?
I've been doing mornings since October 29th, 2001.
Oh,
I know all the dates. Eventually, I'm going to write a book.
I was going to say, my gosh, that is so impressive.
Yeah.
Mornings are tough.
Mornings are... You need to have a good amount of discipline to do mornings.
You do.
The schedule is just different than anybody else's schedule. You know, if somebody wants to do dinner during the week, and you say, "Okay, let's go early," and they say, "Okay, well, I'll get out of work at 5:36." I'm like, "No, I'm talking about when the bus with the old people rolls up."
Right. All the blue hairs and you, right? Exactly. I got to tell you, when I worked mornings, and I did it for 9.5 years, and I was spending I did it on television, then I also did morning radio, so I did it longer than that. And you spend your entire life trying to figure out how you're going to get enough sleep to be energetic the next day. You know, it's not like you go to a job in the morning that you can just sit there and stare at the wall.
Right.
You know, you got to get out of bed, and people are looking for you to bring them out of bed. So you got to do that every morning.
I take a nap every day in the afternoon.
Yeah, do you? Are you a napper?
I'm 100%. And when I say I nap, I go into the darkest room in my house. Yeah. And I can
only do it for so long, right?
Well, it's funny you say that. When I was first doing it, I would go about 20 minutes. I can't do any longer than that. It'll keep me up all night. Now I can do 90 minutes and still get up, and at 7 o'clock I'm yawning. I'm like, I got to go to bed.
Right. Well, that's a time clock. You're on it, and that's good. That's really, really good. Yeah. You know, I was reading about you. First off, you are a busy, busy guy. I mean, you have obviously this radio shift, and you are the face and the voice of the radio station. But then we go a step further, and you've got a new podcast.
Yep.
And tell everybody the Passion Project, right?
Yep.
Which I love this idea. We were just talking about it off the air, but Romero brings people in to talk about, you know, how they've gotten where they've gotten.
Yeah.
Because everybody's road is not the same, and it's usually not straight.
Yeah, I like to talk to people. Who are successful in all different types of fields. You know, even something I don't know about, and hear their story, because a lot of people. Not a lot of people. Everyone has a story if you really break it down. And most stories, especially if you're younger, you think, okay, I go to school, I go to college, I get a job, I work my way up. That is so not it, because that makes it look like this is just what it is.
Right, exactly.
It's not. And usually the most interesting people I know that are successful at what they do have the craziest stories of how they got there.
Absolutely.
You know, and there's a lot of ups and then massive downs and then going and falling back a little bit and working your way back up, and then balancing career with family when it's something you're really passionate about.
Yep.
You know, because I tell it to my kids like this whenever we have interns, and I explain it to them. There's jobs that have overtime. What's overtime? Overtime is we'll pay you to stay extra because we know you don't want to stay extra unless we give you money. And you do it hesitantly, even though you're going to get paid extra. That's a job. A career is nobody's telling you anything about staying extra. You're going in early. You're staying late. You're doing stuff on your own, on the weekends, paying money just to figure out ways to get better at what you're doing because you love it that much and want to get better for yourself.
And of course, if you're going to talk to radio personalities, then you must talk to Billy Costa of Kiss 108. Billy joined me, and he loves to spill the tea, I have to tell you. He just loves it. You know that if you listen to his show. Well, we had an opportunity to chat with two women while he was keeping me company, and that's what they do for a living. They spill the tea. And I got to tell you, Billy was right there in on it. It's so good to see you.
You as well.
You know, it's so cool because you Kiss 108, you know, obviously you've been on Kiss 108 for a really long time.
Long time.
And you were obviously a part of Maddie in the Morning forever and ever. And now it's Billy and Lisa.
Yeah.
And the first thing I'm going to ask you is just what the dynamic of that is like now. Does it feel really different now that you've sort of moved over one chair?
It definitely takes some adjusting because, you know, when Maddie and I were together, you know, Matt was Matt, and I reacted to everything Matt wanted to talk about and or do. And so when you move one chair down, all of a sudden other people have to react to what you're thinking and what you're saying. So it's a different role. And it's hard at first, but it gets to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Matt's just relaxing down there in Florida and playing golf every day. So, hey, buddy.
He's earned that, I would say. I think he really did. Those were great years, I know, but this is something really different. It's sort of like you moved into a little bit of a different phase.
A little bit. There's a lot. A lot goes into the show. A lot of people don't know the behind the scenes, but I'll get in about 4 a.m, and Justin, my executive producer, is probably in about 15 minutes before me, and then Lisa comes in maybe 15 minutes later, and then the three of us just sit down and. We kind of have notes in our head, like during the course of the previous day, what was going on that night. And picking and choosing stories in our little brains that we might want to touch upon the next morning. And then once we get in and we're sitting in the studio, now we're teaming up with Justin, and Justin is finding sound bites and interviews and wacky sound bites that he can accompany the storylines with. So most of the work happens between 4 and 6 o'clock.
Absolutely, before you hit the air.
And then
People
we hit
don't
the
realize
airwaves and hope everything goes okay.
Yeah, then you just start to throw it against the wall, right? And you see what happens.
So we know certain directions we want to go in, but we never know what we're going to say.
Yeah. I
which
get
is
that.
kind of cool, and it's challenging, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, and it's also better because then it seems much more genuine when you just start to chat, right? It's not that you two have scripted anything.
And you kind of feel each other. You're kind of knowing what the next person is going to say before they even say it or while they're thinking it. Because that's one of the key things. Well, I mean, you co-anchored and anchored and everything, and you have to get a sense of timing. Otherwise, you're all talking over each other and no one's hearing anything you're saying.
Absolutely.
So I think we got a good sense of timing going on now.
Yeah. There have been so many radio personalities who have joined me during this year from up and down the dial, and I appreciate each and every one of them and their support. All right. When we come back, Fast Five. It's rapid fire questions that our guests have to answer in just 30 seconds. Have you heard the news? Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater has announced their incredible lineup for the 2025 season. You won't want to miss the hit Broadway musical Waitress, The Wizard of Oz, Grease, Rent, and another Tony Award-winning musical that will be announced in February. Buy a subscription now so you'll be guaranteed great seats for all 5 shows. Go to nsmt.org for more details and to learn more about other shows happening at the North Shore Music Theater. Again, go to nsmt.org. Our friends at Sienna Aesthetic Spa in Beverly want to thank their loyal customers with a pre-holiday special. Get 50 units of Botox or any toxin and get 10 units free. And before you get those injections, how about a skin prep with a Hydrofacial Express for $150? That's a $199 value. Oh, and one more thing. The folks at Sienna will add a complimentary dermaplaning treatment to that facial. Get ready for the holidays. Set up your free consultation with the experts at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly. Go to siennaaesthetics.com. This segment of Carrigan Company is brought to you by Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa. Take years off your face with the very latest technologies at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly. Welcome back, everybody, to this special edition of Carrigan Company. With gratitude, we are looking back at the 48 episodes that we have done so far. We have been so thankful for all the people who have supported us and all of you who have listened or you've watched on YouTube. And by the way, just a quick reminder, as I said before the break, if you've missed some of the episodes, you can easily find them. You can go back, just look up Carrigan Company wherever you get your podcasts, or you can certainly watch them on YouTube. Lots of laughs and a lot of fun. Throughout the course of the 48 episodes, with each one of my co-hosts, we have done this thing called the Fast Five. And it's Fast Five rapid questions, and the co-host has 30 seconds to answer all 5. Some of them have done a pretty darn good job, and others, well, they've struggled just a bit. But we wanted to share some of our favorites. So I remember that one of the episodes, pretty early on, was dedicated to our family here at Big Night. And my co-host was none other than Kevin Cooney. He's the host of No Limits podcast. And Kevin joined me for a Fast Five. Take a listen. Favorite movie, or maybe your favorite movie quote?
Black Hawk Down.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your favorite accent?
The Boston accent.
Give me a little bit.
Clam chowder. TD Garden. I want to name my kid Carter, but I can't because it sounds like Carter.
What's the best part of living in Boston?
Ooh, the people.
People.
You know, rough and tough crowd, but if you're in the area, you're in the, you're kind of in the know. It's a very, I call it like the East Coast entrepreneur startup land, if you will.
That's only because you don't drive, you walk everywhere.
Yeah.
Cold plunge or sauna?
Ooh, both. Contrast therapy. Shout out Sweat House.
That's just a little plug. That's your way of getting the commercials in. And best gift your wife, Ashley, who you have not had all that long, has ever given you.
Probably this little number on the ring there. Hello. So we're married.
Kevin Cooney, by the way, No Limits podcast. Be sure you check it out. Also, best-selling author Casey Sherman. He's actually joined me twice during the course of the 48 episodes. He was a guest very early on, and then he was the co-host late this fall. He also was put to the test when it comes to the Fast Five. Other than you, who's your favorite author?
Hemingway.
Best thing about growing up on Cape Cod?
The beach.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Who was your celebrity crush when you were growing up?
Farrah Fawcett.
Oh, that's a good one. And the best piece of advice for someone thinking of writing a book?
Write because you love it, not because you want to write a bestseller.
I love that. Very good. Casey Sherman, boy, he has been on the show twice, and I have a feeling he'll be back in 2025 because he has so many terrific projects. Another one of my favorite Fast Fives was with one of my favorite people on earth. Meteorologist Cindy Fitzgibbon was my co-host. And by the way, on that same show, meteorologist Harvey Leonard, another one of my very favorites, was our guest. If you haven't seen it, be sure you check it out. In the meantime, take a listen to Cindy and her Fast Five answers. What is your favorite season?